Okay, a little more info on this project, this enclosure. I've talked about a cycle where you're going to get waste produced, it's broken down, you get this cycle that feeding the plants and so on. But it's not necessarily a complete cycle if you listen to what I've said about it, because you end up with nitrate, and I'm telling you, oh, the plants will eat that. But what happens then? A true cycle is you end up where you started, right? And no system is 100% separate and enclosed. You're going to lose, there's going to be some evaporation of water. There's going to be gases that escape out of the water as well. And that's important to think about, because obviously you need to top up the water. Sometimes a substrate can degrade over time. You might want to replace some of it, and that's just your average general maintenance. And certainly doing it this way really does maintain a lot of the energy within the system anyway. But I've talked about you start with like the occupants feed, where it's food available in the system because of a cycle anyway. Like there's algae perhaps growing, and there's microorganisms feeding on the algae, which a fish can eat. Some fish are so tiny they just feed on like plankton, like crustaceans, Daphnia, shrimp, and so on. Whatever it is, if they're eating, they produce a waste, which now fungal things can break that down, as well as bacteria break that down, and produces a waste product once they've eaten, and those systems have chucked away what they don't need. They're throwing away what turns into ammonia for the most part. Now you've got another bacteria and archaea. Science still doesn't know necessarily how to categorize it. It's a single-celled organism, single cell thing that breaks down the ammonia, producing nitrite, and other bacteria will produce the nitrate, breaking down the ammonia as well, which turns their waste product is nitrate. So nitrite, now you got nitrate. This is where you don't just say, oh, all that goes back to the plants. This whole cycle, now that there's nitrate, plants will use some of this. Then you're going to get anything that gets deep into the substrate. You've got a decent enough depth where there's anaerobic bacteria. Anaerobic bacteria don't require oxygen. It's evolved to proliferate deep in that substrate where there's no oxygen. Water, yes, and part of water, the molecule, is oxygen, but there's no freely available oxygen. Now, deep in the substrate, you're going to get anaerobic conditions, which you get a reduction by anaerobic. It's called anaerobic denitrifying bacteria. Basically, it's going to break down that nitrate, producing ammonias and other things, maybe sometime methane as waste products, as well as free nitrogen, a gaseous form of the nitrate. Nitrogen is a whole nitrogen cycle, but above the water you got what I've said before. It produces, it goes, your bacteria breaks things down to nitrate. Your plants, ammonia will be used up by your plants as well. So you got nitrates, you got ammonia's building up in the substrate. That's okay, because your plants use that as food, and the nitrate will be using that as food. You're going to get, in the well-established aquarium, vase in my case, maybe a little bubble sometimes coming up from the substrate, not not the plants who were using photosynthesis, which the waste product of that is oxygen. And it was a toxic thing before until nature on planet Earth evolved. Oh, there's so much of this. Why don't we use it? Natural selection, right? Some people worry about that, all this building up, but really, once it's coming out of that substrate, it's all pretty much a contained bubble, and it flies straight up to the surface and pops out as something else you've lost out of this system. There's no system is 100% contained. Again, you're gonna get water evaporation. You got to top that up. Other things, soil might degrade over time and so on. But generally, doing it this way does tend to maintain itself in a larger way comparative to just a gravel aquarium. I really don't think I'd ever look back to a gravel aquarium coming back to this hobby ever again, because it's way too much work. I've done just sand, but learning what I'm learning, I think, nah, it's just sand on its own wasn't good enough. Then I thought about different grades of sand, larger granules at the bottom, that's better. And plants in the sand, that's better again, but proper substrate and a soil, aqua soil, not dirt, there's a difference. Scientists have researched for these firms who sell aqua soil, and that whole cycle, you get all these pellets, tiny ball pellets, as your aqua soil, and that whole cycle happens within those pellets, as well as the whole soil collectively anyways. This is why it's so efficient for this type of setup. And I'll be buying that probably not this side of October. I need to get lighting, need to get the aqua soil, I need to get plants. Did some aquascaping the other day, and it's looking fairly good. And if I can just get that lit up with a light that won't be used regularly because it's no good for this, but I mean, yeah, it looks nice. If I can, perhaps I'll light that up for you. A strong light somewhere. This camera is not the best to look at this in current condition unless it's lit up properly. So just temporarily put this light on. Take that out of the drawer. Oops. Bear with me. So yeah, there's rock there, lava rock at the front. The driftwood is here, coming down and just behind the lava rock, which is incredibly porous. It's ideal for biofilms and things to grow on that help break down waste. And there's some substrate, sand at the front. Behind will be aqua soil. A lot of plants will be growing, and you'll get some plants fed through between the rock as well. So turn that light on. You'd probably see that better if I was to try that. So you get a better look at what's going on there, better contrast. And I think it just looks beautiful at the moment. Not much, no activity. There is some Java moss in there, and Java moss is a dendrite plant. It sends out dendrites, not roots, to attach itself to a surface. So you've got something really porous and fine capillaries, like driftwood, like we have here. That's ideal for Java moss. I didn't want to overdo it on the Java moss. I mean, it's going to grow anyway once this system has enough waste in the water. It draws nutrients straight from the water column. It doesn't need to be rooted. But I'll probably be putting some kind of carpeting plant at the front here. All of this will need to be trimmed, maintained, so that nothing overgrows, and then you get a misbalance of nutrients coming in because there's no nutrients coming in from elsewhere. This is not a river. It's self-contained, separate, but yeah, it's going to be a bit of nature in this room. I think that's all I've got to say for now. And snails are still doing okay. Scuds are about, so another jar, and sea shrimp. So I'll be setting up that focus. There we go. I'll be setting up a what's it called? Daphnia culture at some point. There's a tiny fish I got in mind, Chili rasboras. They'll eat Daphnia. They're ideal, but better for them to eat live foods. They're so tiny, you got to think about something getting super tiny for them to eat. It fits in their mouth. The Chili rasboras, some Octocinclus, and some catfish. It's kind of, if you look at JM Aquascaping, or was it I think it was MJ Aquascaping. His enclosure that he did with a vase, which is 2 centimeters narrower, but same height, same type kind of vase like this, inspired me to do this. And I was thinking about getting back to the hobby, thinking I might keep some neon tetras here and there, but this idea has evolved this way. He's keeping those same occupants in his enclosure. It's a similar setup with some differences here and there, and I've learned some things as I've gone. The lighting will have like a time cycle to it as well, which encourages more cycle of other things, the plants, and how the plants do their thing, which will affect the water in a certain way, which will affect the occupants in a certain way, as not the main occupants, but the natural cycle, the bacteria and the other things are all part of this food web. Get a cycle going, which is going to happen anyway. People talk about a cycle, everything's cycling anyway. But what we need to do is get the right kind of balance so that we can enjoy a cycle that's enjoyable, not stinky, moldy, or smelling bad, or too much algae, whatever. Certainly we get this a right kind of cycle going eventually. Once the plants are in, I'm going to have to wait some time to get those established before I even introduce like fish or anything else. So it'll be later October at this rate. I want to do it now, but it is finances. If you are interested in helping out financially, there's some crowdfunding on my Throne account where you can add a little bit towards the price of products. You don't have to go all out. It's cool that Throne does that. It's not like Amazon wishlist. You have to, if you're going to do anything for somebody, just buy that one product. You can add a bit of money to some of these things, and some of them I've got already, but as this project evolves, there's no harm in having spares. Thanks for watching. Take care. I look forward to doing another video soon. Bye.